Hi, I'm Marion Ellis, and this is the Surveyor Hub podcast, the podcast for surveyors who just love what they do. In this podcast, you'll hear from surveyors of all flavours, businesses of all sizes, and also conversations with people working in the business of surveying, supporting the work we do. We'll be chatting about what matters in our work, our career journeys, and learning how surveyors make a social and physical impact every day through their work. Don't forget to rate, review, and follow the podcast, or pop over to Google and leave us a review. You can also show your support at buymeacoffee.com/The Surveyor Hub. Today on the podcast, I'm chatting to Zoe Baker from Your Surveyors. This podcast was recorded the day before Zoe won Young Surveyor of the Year award for the residential category. Hello, Zoe.
Hi, Marion. How are you?
I've been really looking forward to talking to you today, like all my guests. But I was really keen because I haven't recorded a podcast for a couple of weeks. I tend to do them in batches, so I can get everybody all together, and I can do it all in one. And I tend to do them in sprints, and I do them way in advance. I'm not very organised, but this is something that I've learned to be quite organised about, which is why it's a little bit bad timing in many ways, because we're speaking today and tomorrow is the Young Surveyor of the Year award.
It is,
so I've got two things that I want to talk to you about. One is Young Surveyor of the Year award, and two, I was going to ask, what are you wearing?
But that is one of the most important questions for us, isn't it, really?
But, I thought to myself, would I ask a man that? Sort of challenging my biases.
Yes.
And then I thought, but men's clothes are really boring. And I know you've got some amazing dresses, so it's okay to ask you. But we don't have to answer that question. But I'll be watching what you're wearing. But for those who don't know you, Zoe, introduce yourself.
So I'm Zoe. I am the owner of Your Surveyors. I am managing director and founder. I set the business up in 2020 in the middle of a pandemic, and I'm here a couple of years later, grown slightly and enjoying every day.
What strikes me actually about you introducing yourself there, I never describe myself as a managing director or a CEO, and I use founder because I do all sorts of different things, and it gives me a bit of license. Did you ever think that you'd be running your own business?
I thought that I had that mindset, but I needed the encouragement. And I think that with anybody, there's a bit of a lack of self-belief in whether you can do something. And sometimes you just need someone else to say, yes, go for it. You could do this. You're capable. It's that self-talk, isn't it? And I think for me, I was confident, but I was always worried about coming across arrogant, because there is a line between confidence and arrogance, isn't there? And I was a very, very confident person, but I felt that actually me worrying about coming across in the wrong way restricted me a little bit in the past.
And I don't think a man would ever say that, not to get into, men versus women. But you're right, as women, we come across, when we're confident women who want to do all sorts of things and have a voice, there is a perception. And I certainly see that with, online and the behaviours that I get sometimes with all sorts of different things, is that people think it's okay to treat me in a certain way, or when really I'm just a strong, vocal, visible woman, and people don't know how to handle that. I guess.
That's very true. Yes. No, I completely agree.
I'm sure there's a joke in there about my husband. But he doesn't know what I do for a living. So that's all right. He stays out of the way. How did you get into surveying, Zoe?
So I wanted to change a career in my early 20s. So I actually started my working life as a teenager doing a hairdressing apprenticeship. So it was a completely different industry, as you can imagine. And I got to my early 20s and I was going to be buying a property with an ex-partner, and I was interested in property and wanted a bit more, of a change of working life, really. I'd been on, the hairdressing floor for a number of years. I'd worked my way up to senior stylist within a short space of time. And I'd done so, many things in that industry. And I felt that I'd come to the end of that journey, if you like. And then I got a job at Surveyors, working in an office, and I absolutely loved it. I just fell in love with the industry what I think stood out to me the most is that we are the only ones there to help the buyers properly and professionally. We're the only ones with that type of knowledge to do that. So yeah, it surprised me. And I sort of took it by storm, really, because in my first week, I accidentally sold a home buyer's report for the cost of a building survey. So my boss was very happy about that.
As long as it wasn't the other way round.
Yeah, absolutely. I set a good example there, I think. I worked my way up in that business, was headhunted for another company. And then I was enrolling in the SAVA course whilst I was working there, did my first year classroom days working there, then did my assessments unemployed with the vision to set up my business that I have now.
Oh, okay. So
it has been a bit of a journey, yeah.
Yeah, so that's SAVA, the surveying school, for those who don't know, and they've got a diploma in surveying.
Level 6 diploma. Yes, that's right. So residential diploma in residential surveying and valuation. It provides you with the ABBE qualification. And yeah, it was a really, really great course to do. I mean, I was in the industry, so I was lucky to have a lot of support around me. But for anybody that is looking to get into residential surveying in particular, because it is so focused on that element of surveying, it's great, you know.
Yeah, I used to teach on the course at one point, so I'm also a fan of it. And it's a great way to, it's vocational training. You know, you can work while you're studying. How did you find that, though? Because I took a few years out before I went back to, it was an institute at the time, it's now a university. And getting your head around studying as a mature student was really, really hard. How did you find the process of doing that?
If I'm honest, I'm very, very much more of a hands-on person, practical person. And that comes from doing a hairdressing apprenticeship, because I learned the most when I was actually doing the haircuts and the colours and actually physically doing those things. So when it came to surveying, I was very much one of those that had to see it.
Get stuck in,
get my hands dirty, experience it. There's only so much you can learn from a book, and it's until you're actually out there doing it, that's when you become like a sponge. It's all of that information that you've absorbed over those classroom days. When you get to that stage where you're going out a lot more, you start to actually, experience what you've been reading. That's when I started to thrive the most, I think, in my learning. And it's important to know yourself and know how you are as a learner and as a student, and what is best for you, because the classroom days are there for everybody, but you have to make them work for you, and only you can do that, because the teacher isn't going to know how everybody in the classroom, what their strengths and weaknesses are when it comes to learning. So you have to recognize that and sort of put yourself in positions to make sure that you are working to the best of your ability.
That's really interesting, because as a mature student, understanding yourself, knowing your learning style, you're in control of that. Whereas obviously when you're in school, you don't know any of that. And who would be a primary school teacher these days?
What I do know is my attention span was much better doing the SAVA qualification than it was at school. So obviously in the right place.
Yeah. So let's just talk about hairdressing. Did you always want to be a hairdresser? Or is that just sort of what the options that were available to you at the time?
I was a creative individual as a teenager, and throughout my whole childhood and teenage years, I was on stage singing, dancing, acting.
Oh, no. Yeah, just reminded me, because I saw a video of you. We'll put a link to it in the show notes of you singing. And I was just blown away, Zoe. Sorry, interrupt you.
No, that's okay. Yeah, so I was mainly a dancer. I used to dance for Erdang and Covent Garden, and I did the Royal Academy of Dance exams and lots of shows. My mum was forever sewing costumes and shoes. I think she does it really, but yeah. So that's where my sort of creative and bubbly nature came from. And then when it came to choosing a career path, I wanted to use that creativity and art, if you like, and I was just drawn to hairdressing. And, that feeling of making someone feel good about themselves, being able to create a style that blows someone's mind, And that's what I wanted to do. And lots of my clients used to say to me, "You've got magic hands, Zoe." And I used to love that. That was one of my favourite comments that anyone could ever say to me. So that's why I wanted to go into that. And also, I think it was the fact that at the time, I wasn't drawn to go into college just because my friends were going. And I didn't want to do subjects that other people were doing just because my friends were going there. I wanted to choose something that was going to help me progress as an individual and show my strengths at that time. And that was, being creative and getting into the working life as quickly as possible. And actually, I matured very quickly when I went into work.
I can imagine totally, because you're dealing with real life and people. Whereas if you go straight to, A-levels, uni, don't have work experience. I remember my first day as a graduate employment position, and everyone else was worried about answering the phone. And I was thinking, oh my God, how am I going to survive 18 months if they're worried about answering the phone when I'd been on the phones for British Gas and BT and different things in my degree life. It's interesting you talk about creativity. How do you bring that into your surveying, do you think?
So I think it's just about the creative mind that I have, and it helps me actually when I'm at a property, because I'm not closed-minded. I'm looking at the whole picture. I feel like sometimes I've got eyes in the back of my head, which is great. And it helps me with those forward investigations. So, following the trail. Sorry, that's the words I was looking for. It helps me with that because I'm inquisitive. I'm looking for the next sign. I'm always, And with my reports as well, I write them in a very creative nature. I like to paint pictures for people, and it's like a story for them. They're just about to spend all of this money on this property, and I want this document to be worth every single penny they paid for it. And you can get your personality across in your reports 100%. And I love doing that. And I want it to be a report written by me, not by an RICS surveyor. I want them to know, yes, I'm an RICS surveyor, but actually it's me that's written this report. And I want that to come across as well.
Oh my goodness, Zoe, I love that. Because I think we have this very stereotypical view in our profession of, to be a surveyor, you need to be very technical and methodical and efficient and all of those things. And that does help to a degree. But to use your creativity, and one of the life lessons that really changed my career actually about 8 or 9 years ago was I did some, I can't remember, it was a coaching or event or something that I went to. And I came away and someone told me, you do what you do, you just happen to do it in the world of surveying. And I realised that I'm a problem solver. People-led, creative problem solver. Do not ask me to cut hair. I'm not very good at drawing pictures or anything. But the way that I would look at a property, or rather the way that I would look at some of the claims and valuations that I was dealing with, I would creatively resolve them, and just thinking in that 3D kind of way. But I've also realised I need to have fun and colour. And I remember walking into the office once, and I was in such a bad mood towards the end of my when I left my corporate job. And I remember thinking, I am not going to speak to anybody all day. One of those strops that we sometimes have. And I know it's not just me. And I remember looking at and I've mentioned this on the podcast before, I'm sure, but I remember looking at my Outlook diary, and it was just ram-packed with blue squares everywhere. And I thought, I hate pale blue. I'm an autumn colour. And so I changed them all, colour-coded them, and then I went rogue and just did random colours. And I could see the secretaries behind me going, what's going on with her then? But I felt so liberated, and I went and got myself some coloured felt pens from IKEA, which was just down the road from our office. And, just being able to express yourself in actually what was quite a, restricted, regulated, thinking of all the lawyers and things that I deal with. It was so fixed, and it just gave me some felt pens, gave me this outlet. And I've taken that with me ever since. A lot of my work is fun. And if I don't enjoy doing it, I won't do it, And I think we've got to allow ourselves to do that. And just because we're doing reports, which are quite technical and or whatever, doesn't mean that you can't make them look good, show empathy there,
Yeah, you can still be technically correct in every aspect, but still show your style and your flair at the same time.
So how do you do that? Give an example.
I would probably, it's very difficult for me to give a specific example, but I think the way that I format my reports, in the sense that I explain every element with sort of the same order, if that makes sense. So construction, condition, action is how I usually report. And in my mind, when I'm actually at the survey, I can then look at an element and go construction, condition, action. Yeah, and it keeps it like that. And then with the wording, with what I say, it's all about enticing the reader, and so that they don't just look at it and go, this is jargon.
Yeah. And we have so much of that, don't we? And I know a lot of surveyors, we see it on the hub sometimes. They'll say, have you got a paragraph for this? And,
yes.
When I used to deal with the claims, there's nothing worse than just the copy and paste, and you can just read the tone.
No.
It just take the problem with it, apart from looking not very good, is that instantly you lose trust and faith in what you're being told, and you just don't believe it. And
actually, if you need standard clauses for everything, you're an incompetent surveyor, because you need to be able to articulate the wording as a surveyor. That is your job. Standard clauses do have a place, and they are fantastic as prompts, but you have to be able to then, change them, dissect them, add to them, do all of that to particularize for that individual situation. And that's a skill set, but you have to do it in the best way that's for you and your clients, so that your client is served every single time, because you can't just send the same report out to everybody. It's not fair.
Yeah, that's true. And, if we think about copywriters and authors, and, it's a skill learning to write and to tell a story, about a property. Yeah. And I wonder, as we're learning to do our reports and do our inspections, we might have report writing skills, but it's an art to create a document which is not just enjoyable to read. It's about accessibility too. But if someone's not reading your report or taking your advice, in my view, that's your fault as a surveyor. If they're not doing that, and that's either because it's full of jargon, the process, how you've engaged with your client, or even the fact that it was sold as an insurance guarantee rather than a tool to use. And so it's not just about writing a good report that someone will read. It's actually protecting yourself at the same time, isn't it? You and your business with your PI.
And what you just said about engagement, client engagement, is absolute key in my business. We give people the opportunity to have a pre-survey call with their surveyor, completely free, no obligation. Don't even need to say that they'll go with us for any free technical advice that they want at that stage. And then if they do go with us, they get a follow-up call, straight after they've had their report. We'll give them a little time to read it. We like them to read the report first, because, it's important that they've read it. And then if they've got any particular questions, at least they're aware of the situation, and it's a streamlined phone call, and they can speak to us as many times as they need to. And we've had people come to us, they're keeping that relationship with us 6 months later. They just call and just check something with us, and it's absolutely fine. And some people's sales have gone on a bit longer, and, they call up at first and go, is it okay? And it's like, yes, this should be absolutely fine for any business. And I think actually that's another massive attribute that I've brought over, is customer service. Because
I was about to ask you this, because if you worked in a firm of surveyors, you'll have understood how it works operationally, I guess. And a lot of people that I work with or come onto the mastermind, and Zoe, you came on my mastermind earlier on at the start of the year, I think it was, they don't have that operational background, which is quite significant. We think it's, you just come to me for work, we do the terms, we have a chat, that's it. But it's much more than that. The customer experience and engagement is really key. And again, I view it as a protective thing to protect yourself from claims. But tell me how because I know you've set some things up and you've automated quite a few things, haven't you, in your business?
If I'm honest, it is all about that first point of contact. It's what is their first view of you as a company, because that is, people's attention spans are seconds these days. So, if you're going to be if you're presenting yourself to them, whether that be in a quote or they've landed on your website or they've gone on to, your social media, you want that to be, engaging, or you want that to be the message you want to put across straight away. What is really important is that it follows on consistently. It's not, you look great, but then they get through and the service isn't that great. It needs to carry on throughout the whole process. And actually, it doesn't just come from when I was in the office working in surveyors. This has come from hairdressing, the customer service skills that I obtained face-to-face with people on a daily basis, operating a 5-star service all the time, consistently. The business owners were very, very on customer service and customer care. We had an ethos, we had, a mission statement. It was drilled into everybody. And that has actually helped me in most, I think, transferring those skills over to surveying. And I brought that into the office. Operationally, you can learn systems, you can learn processes. It's actually not that, it's how you use them and how you automate those processes. You've just got to always make sure that your business's message and the way that you want to present yourself is consistent throughout that whole journey for people.
Oh, that's gold dust, Zoe. Two things came to mind there, my ADH brain as it does. One was, what did the hairdressers say when you went to work for a firm of surveyors? Was that like a bolt out of the blue? What do they think? But the other question I was thinking was totally gone out of my head now. All right, so answer that one. What did they think when you said you're going to be a surveyor or you're going to work for a firm of surveyors?
Very strangely, it's very common for hairdressers to start as teenagers and then develop into your 20s. You start developing as an adult and you start changing as an individual. And you change. It's very common, actually. So what it is hard to do is move to another industry. So deciding to do it is fine, but actually how you do it is very difficult, because if you've just got hairdressing on your CV, most employers won't look at you. It's true. I was very lucky to know people in the industry at the time, and I was able to be recommended. But without that, I would say, I wouldn't have got that position, or have been looked at in a way. I guess, yeah, it's sort of being taken seriously, isn't it? And seeing past somebody, it's the same as any other, diversity issue in many ways. You're a young girl who's a hairdresser. What does she know about property and technical stuff and all of that? And this is why it's important, I think, for people like you to be visible and to share what's possible. It's interesting. You say, a lot of people do the hairdressing and then change a bit later. And I guess that's, a mix of just where we're at in our lives. We mature, at different rates, the opportunities that are open to us. And I certainly think the jobs that I had from, I did a YTS job on a reception in the Grove High School in Wrexham years ago. I don't know if I've knocked it down now, but that was like one of my first proper jobs. Then I did temping. I worked in a car parts firm on the phone. I did absolutely everything. But it's those formative years and the skills I learned there that then helped me to deal with all of these complaints and claims and not being worried about dealing with people and the juggling things. And I can see you wouldn't necessarily think, hairdressing, how transferable is that to surveying? But it is, because it's about people. Yeah. People and brand and presentation. And that's really insightful. Let's just talk a bit about visibility, because I know, you mentioned some social media and you've got your own business now. How did that journey to having your own business come about, and how do you feel about being in front of your business? I think as I was in my assessments with SAVA, I wasn't going to be able to achieve what I wanted in the employment that I was in. You know, I just wouldn't have been able to do what I wanted to do there. So it was definitely the best decision for me to set up my own and do all the things I wanted to do, but do it for myself, you know. But also I had a lot of support from, you probably know, I worked with Garrett O'Hanlon, and he was my mentor during my qualification, and also a business owner. And yeah, he was a real inspiration for me, because most of what I've learned is from him, I'll be honest with you. But operationally and social media and that sort of thing, that's all me. And I'm the marketing, I'm the creative, I'm this. And technically, he is phenomenal as a surveyor. You know, his knowledge is excellent. And the two of us work so well because I've got these strengths, he's got those strengths. Our weaknesses outweigh each other. We lift each other up, you know, where we need to. And because we are fully aware that, you know, I'm stronger in some elements, he's stronger in others. And that's how, you know, that's how it works. And we've managed to now get to a stage where we're very, you know, confident in our responsibilities within the business, and we're able to play to our strengths, but also help each other out to keep learning and developing as individuals, because that is so important. You never know everything. And, you know, when you're going into business and you become a business owner, it's really easy to be sucked into the thought process of, oh, well, I know everything now because I own my own business and, you know, I have all the say and nobody tells me what to do. And actually, that's the worst mindset you could get into.
Did you have an idea of the way a surveying business should be run, a model, if you like, or were you all for doing it all yourself? And the reason I ask this is I come across a lot of people who, you know, might do the SAVA course or whatever course. And I think it's fair to say, you know, they tend to be mature students. So they've got life experience typically behind, or have been entrepreneurs in different ways. But it's quite a risk for a lot of people to just go and set up on day one. And I sometimes see that they're out doing, you know, level 2 surveys on period properties that even I wouldn't have gone near.
Yeah.
You know, there's all of that. But there's almost and I know some people have like a franchise option and do lots of things. But I look at that and I think that is such a risk. And it's a risk on two fronts, because one, you don't know yourself enough as a business owner, the way you want to, you know, be a surveyor. You've not had insight into the industry, which I think is really, really key. Yeah. But also then there's just your technical ability.
Yes.
And people have lots and lots of experience in, you know, lots of things. But, you know, when you start out, yes, you can get the PI insurance, but it doesn't mean that will continue. And then the complaints.
That's the easiest time to get the PI insurance.
It is. Yeah, it is. And so I worry about people, and I don't work with, I used to, but I don't work with people straight out of the box, if you like. And I don't work with people or coach people who just want a business out of a box either. They've got to have, you know, been in work for a little while or running their own business. Have got a good understanding, something about them, and particularly want to have a meaningful business, which is what I'm all about. And that was a really conscious decision for me, because those that just want to grow and do the numbers really don't care about the people and what it means to have a survey. And when you lose sight of that, that's when you get onto that treadmill. But they don't have, there aren't the models out there, because we don't share all of this, you know, information and get to know each other as small business owners. That all we see is, you know, the way to grow your business is to just start and then grow it and recruit. Whereas what you've done is you've almost sort of got your mentor in your business. And if I think about the number of surveyors who want to sell their business, and that's something that people come to me for coaching, you know, and things a lot, they want to exit their business. Well, it's a great thing to have someone to come in and to do that transition together, because guess what? Your business isn't really worth anything, and you're de-risking, you know, setting up for yourself and doing it the hard way. So it's interesting that you took that view, you know, went on that journey.
Yeah, it's really, really important. It's not easy to do, to set up by yourself after you've just qualified. And I'll be completely honest with you, I'm the same as you, Marion. I wouldn't take somebody on who's just come from training, they would need some work experience. And, the reason for that is until you are out there doing it on a daily basis, you haven't put all of that, learning to the test really. And for me, the operational side of things, processes, the procedures, that was duck to water. I didn't have to think. So whilst a lot of other surveyors wanting to set up by themselves would have to learn all of that, I didn't need to, because I knew what terms meant. I'd written terms, I'd distributed, all of that sort of thing. Operationally, I already knew what I wanted. So that there wasn't really a lot of time spent on that, because, it was, I want this, it's done. That's it, because I've been in the office and I've quoted people, I've sent the terms, I've booked in the jobs, I've managed the surveyors' diaries, I've gone out with the surveyors and shadowed, I've invoiced people. I used to bind reports back in the day when paper was a thing. And by now, I don't have any paper in my business because my nails were terrible with the binder.
And that's in your mandate. But this is my business. I will always have good nails and good hair. Yeah, you're right though, because a lot of surveyors, if they work for a corporate and then come over, even they've never really seen the engine room, if you like, or had to deal with some of the hiccups. And those are the fundamental things that you need to get right. It's that structure. How is someone going to pay you? What are the terms like? What are the processes? That's that practical customer experience side. When I come across surveyors, they're working for themselves and they're really wondering why they need an administrator, a virtual PA, VA. And you just think, oh God, you're an expensive one. That's why you're a surveyor and your skills are elsewhere, but they don't necessarily see the value in it. So you've been able to come in and then, set that up. And then I guess it then gives you the space to continue to learn with the job, with that mentorship that you have.
Yeah, definitely. And it's important for me because I've learned a lot about myself over, the years that I've been in the business so far, and learned about myself, not just as a business owner, but as a surveyor, and understanding what my strengths and weaknesses are. And that, I don't really like hierarchy either. I'm very much equal in my approach to everything. I despise hierarchy, to be honest. And I think everyone's an equal and everybody has strengths and weaknesses, and we can all learn and develop and grow and flourish in our own ways. And I think as my business does naturally grow, because I don't want it to be forced, I don't want it to be artificial. It's a natural growth with the right people around me at the right time. And I'll be treating everybody in exactly the same way, them coming in and showing me their strengths, and, we can help them to work to the best of their ability and make sure that, they wake up happy every day and want to go to work, because, that's really, really important.
That's quite, I would say, unusual, but it's actually quite intimidating, and for some people, that there's comfort in coming in and knowing who the boss is and what you need to do. But it's that, and this is where I think some surveying businesses, as they grow and people want to exit their business, is they need to get into a model of partnership, and we're all in this together, and how do we move forward, and we all contribute, albeit in different ways, because that's where you'll get most fulfillment, I think, out of it. You feel
definitely.
like you belong, you own. If you look at, like John Lewis partnerships and Arup and, companies like that, they're all invested in it, and so you've got that common purpose. And we talk about vision and values and where you want everyone wants the business to be. And I guess that's something that I think gets quite lost with a lot of the larger corporates, because it does become about the income, the fees, the points. Yes, there's camaraderie, absolutely.
Yeah.
But everyone's there to do a job and to go home. And it's a very different culture. What's sort of actually been quite challenging setting up and running your own business?
Dealing with the stamp duty. Boom. During the pandemic, when I just set up, that was a challenge in itself. And so for me personally, was managing my workload. And you would probably know, because We spoke about this on your course earlier this year, sorry. And yes, managing your time is probably one of the hardest things that will never be perfect and will always need your constant attention, because it's so easy to let it slip and to become buried in your work and never stop. But I actually did a post about this on my LinkedIn the other day. It's so important to just step away for a minute and, review your business from a bird's eye perspective. Take a break. Don't say yes to everything. I'm terrible at saying yes to absolutely everything.
How do you do that? How do you do that? What helps you step away?
More about diary management now. So I look at my diary, and instead of thinking, oh, I could fit something else in there, I go, no, I'm going to block that time out because it's available to me now. And it's sort of screaming at me saying, take this time. So I've been doing that a lot more recently. And yeah, it's worked wonders. And I've got so much done that I've wanted to get done for so long, but haven't had the time to do because I've been too busy saying yes to everything. So yeah, it's I think time management is a massive part of being a business owner, really.
Yeah, there are practical things that people can do. So for me, if people want to book in to have a call with me, I send them a link, and it's got my hours that I'm prepared to speak to somebody about something. And so you've almost got like a digital gatekeeper, if you like, that gives you protected time, and allowing tech solutions and things like that to support you or people. And my lovely PA Alexia, she's great. She puts my kids' school holidays and things in, make sure I've got time clear, because I ask her to do that. So it's using your business to help support you in your life and with your time. But I read an article, see if I can find it, I'll put a link to it in the show notes. But it was an article about, it might have been about millennials, and how they want the earth. But it was aimed at that. But it was saying that how people now go into work thinking you only work a few hours a day, everything's got to be hunky dory and we've got to do things differently. When actually, we're owning a business, setting it up, you do put in the graft, you do the 55, 60 hours a week. And you can do that. And we know we can do that. Some of us have had babies and not slept for, me 3 years with both of mine. When people are ill, when different things happen, we can do it. We can do hard things. We do the graft when we need to, but it's making sure that you replenish in some way, and then you get that perspective, because you can't do hard things all the time. But we don't give ourselves, permission to do it. And whenever I speak to surveyors, the first questions are, are you busy? Is it going well? Are you busy? And I don't want to say, no, not really. Not really, but that's good. We need to find a different question and a different answer. But it's not, part of it is saying I'm worth that time and this is what I'm going to do. But it's sort of seeing the picture as a whole, isn't it? And putting things in place. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think maybe instead of are you busy, it's what are you working on at the moment?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
At the moment, what have you seen that's really interesting?
Because that could be, do you know what, I'm working on not doing anything and having a bit of time out, and that's fine as well. And I think that has to be something that is accepted, and there is, I think, in a lot of corporate working environments, that pressure to work. And I don't know whether that's because there's a lot of competition. You've got a lot of other people around you, and you're all striving, but you can burn out.
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing. Fear drives people. The fear of the market crashing, the fear of there not being any work, to come through. When you make decisions based on fear, they tend to be short-lived, limiting. You'll take that job for that low fee, just in case nothing else comes through next week. And it's not, it's not about manifesting work. I've been on some random courses and programs. A couple of years ago, I was at some money mindset event, and there was a lady sat next to me who was a horse whisperer.
Right.
She talked to horses and animals, and she was struggling in her business. And we had this conversation: how do you get working. And she said, I just close my eyes and cross my fingers and hope. And then the phone rings and it works every single time. You're just like, maybe that's what I'll do. I'll manifest coaching clients or manifest surveys through. It doesn't work. What she was doing actually was marketing herself, being visible, talking to her clients, getting repeat business. And that's where putting time and some money, but not necessarily, but time, investing that time to work in and on your business is absolutely crucial.
Yes. And actually that sometimes you need it to be a bit quieter for your mind to be able to be more creative. And that's when your big ideas come into your mind and, your projects or whatever you want to work on. Actually, sometimes you need the phone to stop ringing for a minute for you to be able to explore all of those other avenues because actually I've found that over the last couple of years, I have had so many ideas come into my head. And unless I write them down, they're not going to come back for a while. They probably will eventually, but who knows, your mind gets filled with other things and then you forget. And that's why actually it's really, really important to go, actually, I've got a really good idea. I need to execute this and I need to make time to make sure that I implement this and not, another survey's come in. Great, I'll go and do that, because that idea could be what the building block you need for the challenges that they may be in the future.
Absolutely. And I think that's your creative mind, isn't it? Because it's saying, I need to explore this. And the thing is, if you don't scratch that itch, then actually your job becomes really boring and frustrating because you're not having those other outlets. And it's important to plan. Over the pandemic years, it's been difficult because it has just been flat out busy for most surveyors. But generally, in the residential sector, we have, ebbs and flows of, quiet over winter and Christmas, the new year boom, the wobble over Easter, and then quiet over the school holidays before September, October bounce, if you like. So we can plan for when we're going to have time off. We can plan for when we're going to do a bit more marketing, and attract and make connections and things. And so we can build that in. We have much more control over it than we think. Tell me about how you've been visible in your business and your brand.
So we have our social media pages. We've got Instagram's our main page, to be honest, where we like to post helpful, quick fiery videos for people that, for the public and also for other professionals if they like. And also we keep in contact with all of our clients on email, and we do competitions and we keep, engaging people. We've done charity donations when it was the Ukraine. We raised money, so every survey that instructed us, they had the opportunity to donate £1 to the British Red Cross. So we did that over a few months. So we do a lot of work with charities, and we engage with people on a personal level. Yes, we do have our Instagram to have a little shop front, and our website, of course, which is visible from Google, and a lot of people find us through Google. But also it's important to look after the people that have paid you, not just the people that may pay you in the future.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And the thing is, as we're recording this, for some, it's starting to get a bit quiet as we work out who our Prime Minister is and all of that. And I can see surveyors going out there saying, I need to be on social media, or, where can I get leads from? And it's got to be consistently planned, and you've got to have build up that presence, because going on social media is no better than cold calling if you've not built up a strong brand. Just to finish off, let's talk about Young Surveyor of the Year award.
Yes.
And you've entered is it the residential?
Yes.
I can't remember. Residential.
Yes, residential surveying, yeah.
Tell me about what that means to you. This is your X Factor story background clip.
Oh, wow. I mean, it is the icing on the cake. It's tough for anybody, setting up their own business, but I have experienced numerous amounts of challenges in my career, and I've just kept, my mission statement, my morals, and what I believe in consistent throughout the whole process. And I felt that, now was the right time for me. I've, been in business a couple of years. All we've had is 5-star reviews, which I'm absolutely delighted about. Every day I'm on tenterhooks. We can't get any less than a 5-star. And this award just, it gives me shivers talking about it, to be honest. To become a member of such a well-respected institution is, my mum is just absolutely beside herself, as you can imagine. And unfortunately lost my dad when I was 3 years old. And they always remind me of how proud he would be of me right now. And they always say I'm very like my dad as well, because he would be in an ice cream van one minute and roofing someone's house the next, and then doing a sales job with a company car the next minute. And that's why they say that I'm very, very similar to him. So, I think that it really is just, whether I win or not, just to be a finalist and being recognised for what I've done. All the hard work that I've put in has finally been seen. People have seen it. They've paid attention to it, and that to me is winning.
Oh, honestly, it's going to be such a good night.
I know, I can't wait.
It is. And I've judged on the awards for a couple of years now, and this year I did the Mentor of the Year category, which is really interesting. But when you look at all of the applications, it's why I did that podcast a little while ago about how to do the application. The thing that comes through is how heartfelt the applications are, and that gives you that sense of truth, of meaning to our work. You can really see through yes, I've done lots of money with all these zeros and big contracts and blah de blah. It just absolutely cuts through. So I can see just from what you shared today how your application would have got shortlisted. What would you do with it if you won this award tomorrow night? What would you do with it?
It's another stepping stone within my career. It's the confidence, and you need to build on that. You don't just get the award and say, oh well, I won that, great. It's okay, I've won that, and what's my next step? Where do I go from here? And I think I'd be looking at other awards, maybe that we could apply for as a business, but also as an individual, I would be looking to, work up to the MRICS status at some point. And I think that, having that award and using that would really help me on that journey as well.
It's a massive confidence boost. I remember when I got my fellowship, it's not the same, but the application to do the fellowship, there's no interview or award or anything. They don't even give you the little gold cards that you used to get now. But it's about telling the story of what you've done, but also future pacing it and the opportunity of what surveying means to you. And I think, everybody who's nominated and takes part in the award, you're all role models. That's where that visibility piece comes
Definitely.
in. So the more that we can share our stories, and that's what this podcast is all about. The more
it's
that we
all
can
about
share
inspiring.
that, it just inspires people.
Yeah. I want other women surveyors to, look at my story and achievements and believe that they can do that as well, because everybody is capable. You just have to believe in yourself and you can get there.
And I think where we all need to work together is, it's one thing to be inspiring, but it's that gap between being motivated to actually do something about it, and what are the mechanisms. How do you get started as a surveyor and a trainee? How do you juggle the kids while you're studying? How do you get from associate level to member and RICS level? And
we're not going to answer that now. There's so many. Which
is why I'm ending on that note. But it's the gap, isn't it? And I'm always mindful of the gap. How do we bring that closer? Zoe, it's been lovely to talk to you today. Can't wait to see you tomorrow and whatever.
Thank you. Can't wait.
I'll speak to you again soon.
Thanks, Marion.
Hey, thanks for tuning into the show today. I really hope you enjoyed it. You can find the show notes and links to any guests and resources we've mentioned today on the website lovesurveying.com. And don't forget to show your support by buying me a coffee, or you can rate, review and follow the podcast on your usual podcast platform. It really does make a difference and helps spread the word and reach a wider audience of surveyors who just love what they do. See you next time.